going to do for us, the United States of America, and to the betterment of our society. So, Stu, please.
Thank you so much. So first of all, thank you so much everyone for coming out and being here. I have to say real quick, so during the race, before we knew who the winner was going to be, we agreed as a group that no matter who won the Republican primary, that we would work together to help that person get across the finish line. And of all the people that I ran against, there's no one that's worked harder or shown more resolve to basically live up to that promise. And it says something about him as a person, and a man, and a person of his word. But he's become a good friend. He and his girlfriend to my wife and I. And so anyway, I can't thank him enough for everything he's done. And thank you for coming out. And that's exactly the point. So I'll go through my background and I'll talk about all this stuff. But I want you to know my main reason here tonight is to listen. My main reason being here tonight is to come to you and let you know that I'm not entitled to your vote. I'm not entitled to anyone's vote. I have to earn that by coming here, doing the hard work of meeting people and learning and figuring out what's important to you, and then coming up with solutions of how I'm going to deliver results for you. So that is why I'm here tonight. And I'll give a quick background. So Army combat veteran. I led over 300 combat missions in Iraq, including a mission that led to the successful rescue of a hostage. Came back home. I went to law school, and while I was full-time in a good law school, top 20 law school, I also worked full-time as a prosecuting attorney. So I thought that was the route I was going to do. Wanted to put bad guys away, serve my community. But when I got to the end, God had a different plan for me. I ended up joining, but a similar mission. I ended up joining the FBI, and for a decade I worked counterterrorism issues. And so the first ISIS claimed attack on the U.S. homeland, after that happened, the FBI made me the lead investigator, and I led that investigation and put that bad guy away for 30 years and stopped an attack on a strip mall in the process that they were planning. And so did that with the FBI. I came out here. The National Counterterrorism Center is in Tysons. And so I came out for that mission. And while here, I continued to do national security stuff. So I helped stand up a unit that focused on Hamas and Hezbollah, and so threats that come from Iran, worked those national security issues, and then moved over to the FBI. And then when Biden got elected, everything at the FBI seemed to change. And so the focus where we were before on what I thought were legitimate national security threats, I thought we started to shift away from that. And I'm a conservative. I believe in the Constitution. And so rather than embedding myself and becoming a deep state resistor, I did the honorable thing, which is I resigned. I left the FBI, I took a big pay cut, and I joined a conservative think tank. And for the last 4.5 years, I've been in the trenches fighting to advance conservative policy, and not just conservative policy, but policy that helps improve the lives of all Americans. No matter what race, creed you're from, it just makes life better. And so that, for the last 4.5 years, that's what I've been doing. And so why did I get into this race? I was looking at our community and talking to people, and I realized we're ready for change, right? For the last 4 years before President Trump came in, the other administration pushed our country so far into radical new directions that we'd never imagined, right? They, through reckless spending, through a wide open border that allowed drug dealers and rapists and murderers to flood into our community, and through pushing this, what can only be described as radical woke ideology, not just in front of all of us, but behind closed doors, in classrooms. You saw, under the guise of quote-unquote DEI, Asian Americans being discriminated against. So Asian Americans who had won on the basis of merit an opportunity to go to TJ, a school that a lot of people in my community, in our community, aspire to, were denied that opportunity for no other reason than their race. Like, that is racism. That is not okay. And so people are ready for change, and I can get that change. And so again, I got to talk for a second quick too about why our race is different, because I think we're all used to it. When you look at this district and you look at past elections, I think there's kind of this misunderstanding that we can't win, right? It's not worth it. It's too hard. There's too many Democrats. But we have been given this once-in-a-generation opportunity to actually take back this seat and win. And together, if all of us come together, if all of us decide to win this race, we will win this race because of these dynamics. And so real quick, what are those dynamics? Well, number one, it's a special election. So what does that mean? It means they're not holding the election in November like they usually do. And so lots of people won't even know this election is taking place. Or if they do, they'll get confused about the date and they won't vote. And so what does that mean? It means we can win this race by just turning out voters that care about our values, that share our values. If we turn those folks out and they vote, we'll win. And once we win this race, then we'll go to the traditional race where we'll need to open up to wider groups and bring even more people into our fold. And we'll be able to do that once we've won. But for this race we're in, all we need to do is turn out voters and we can win. And so how do we do that? We do it through a few things. First of all, we have to have a good strategy to win. And then we also need to have the right resources to win. And so on the strategy side, with a race like this, it's really easy. Number one, you have to energize your base. You have to energize Republicans. This can't just be a race where people, oh yeah, I always vote for the Republicans, so I guess I'll vote for this guy. They won't show up to a special election. They have to actually be energized and believe in the candidate and be willing to drag their friends to the polls and drag their family members to the polls. And so how do we do that? We do that by running as a true conservative. We do that by running as an unapologetically America First conservative who takes the issues that we all care about and focuses on those issues and restores common sense. And so what are those issues? It's fixing the economy. So instead, my opponent is focusing on political issues and trying to win political points, and I'm just focused on reining in reckless spending, putting more of your money back in your pockets, stopping this endless cycle of raising taxes. He just voted to increase the meals tax by 4%. And so people that come here to get food, right, that'll be a 10% tax now be added every time they come to eat here. And get this, that 4% he just added, the people in this district voted twice. No, we don't want that. We think that's bad for the economy. We think that's bad for consumers. We think that's bad for the restaurant owner here. If now everything costs 10% more, people are they're going to have to buy less. And so that hurts him. That hurts all the people he's employing. And so we think that's bad. But guess what my opponent did? He voted for it anyway. Because he's never going to stop. And so this is an issue that a lot of us can say, like, people can disagree on policy and some of these things, but we can all agree that, look, enough's enough. We have to stop that. And then the other thing is the family issues. People, I think, and my wife is wired this way, and I'm wired this way, is I want to be kind to everyone. I always want to treat people with respect, but I'm not okay with people trying to indoctrinate my child behind closed doors. And no one is, even whether you're Democrat, Republican, or Independent. You want schools that teach people how to think, not what to think. And so we have gotten so far away from that. And so I think focusing on those issues, on the school choice issues, on taking money that's coming from the federal government, and instead of it automatically going to these public schools, it should go to your pockets if you have kids, and you should be able to decide where that money goes. If you want to send them to your public school, you should send them there. If you want to send them to a private school or some other option or homeschool, you should have that option. And if you create those kind of things, then you make the schools compete with one another, and they'll start to return back to common sense. And so we need to have those policies. The other strategy part to win is we also need to make this a national race. And so normally when people look at our district, and there's big donors, but there's also these groups that have an army of people that can come out and door knock. And so normally they look at the country, and they see a race in our district, Virginia 11, and they see another race in Oklahoma 3, and they say to themselves, why would I spend my resources there? This is an easier win, that makes sense. But guess what? We're in a special election. We are the only show in town. And so that means all these groups have these resources sitting on the sideline. And so if they believe we can win, then they'll push those resources here. It'll be huge. You'll have more door knocking happening than you can imagine. It'll 10x everything we're doing with our volunteers. And money will come in. There's big super PACs that have billions of dollars sitting on the sideline, and if they just become convinced this is winnable, then that money can come in for resources. And so why does all that matter? It matters because of the three things we need to win. And this is what I'll end with before answering whatever questions everyone has. So the three things that we need to win, and I'm an Army guy, so I think in these terms, but it's soldiers, bullets, and bombs. That's the key to win this war against the left. And so what do I mean by that? So what are bombs? Bombs are those big super PACs. Bombs are those 501c organizations like Heritage Foundation, who's already said they're going to help us. Americans for Prosperity is in the process of approving it. They haven't said yes yet, but I think they will. And there's some other big organizations. Those are the bombs. Those are huge. I'm working hard every day. I'm calling, and my campaign manager, Gray, and I are meeting with these guys individually and convincing them to bring those resources to bear. And I think those resources are coming. So those are the bombs. What are the bullets? The bullets are the direct mail, targeted text messaging, robocalls with hopefully President Trump's voice for certain voters, and other people's voices for other types of voters. But it's all these tools that, again, the kind of race we're in, a special election, and we're in a district that's heavily Democrat, we don't want to go to every single door on a street. If we go to every single door on the street and we hand out our literature, we'll turn out voters for the other side that no matter what I say, they're just so used to voting Democrat that they'll just blindly do that. So we need a little bit more time to convince them. But how do we target those? We target those through data that we have to purchase. We target those through messaging that just goes to certain people's cell phones. And so that's our bullets. And so that costs money. I'm focused heavily on that because I have to be as a candidate fundraising, but that's something where we can get help. It's anyone that's able to contribute, even if it's a little bit of money, when that comes into us, we can then use that to deploy these resources to actually win. And then the third thing we need, and I promise I'm almost done, but the third thing we need is soldiers. And this is the most important thing. If you have enough soldiers, you can win the race without bullets or bombs. You totally can. But it's hard to get a lot of soldiers because guess what? It's hard. And so what's a soldier? That's someone going out and door knocking. That's someone volunteering to sit in their home and write postcards and send them to targeted email addresses. That's someone coming into a phone bank and doing phone banking, etc. And so that's hard work, but that's what we need. And so at the end of the day, it's manpower and money is the key to winning races like this. And so if people can volunteer, then we want you to volunteer and be part of the team. If you're someone that can't because you have a business you're running or you have some of your family obligations where you can't go door knock, then any kind of contribution that either comes from you or if you have a network of people that you can reach out to and tell them about a race, then that's important. And then the last thing I'll say is because it's a special election, it really is just getting word out. And so you have to have a lot of people will not have never heard of me. A lot of people won't even know this race is going on. And so everyone in this room, if you agree with us and you're excited about it, that's the best thing you can do, is just to contact your networks and say, I've met this guy, he talked to me, which I'm about to do, he answered all of our questions, he is authentic. You may not agree with him on every single issue, but we agree with him on the issues that matter, and I think you should go vote for him, and here's when and where you should do it. If you do that, we'll win the race, period. So with that, thank you so much for coming out. I'd love to take your questions now, please. But thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Simple question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you talk about bomb, bullets, and soldiers, what's your message? I think messaging is perhaps more important part of the campaign, and especially in our district, you have so many federal workers who are affected by the cutting of the government, and I know a lot of people. What's your message to them? How do you convince them to vote for you?
So my message, on the most simple is, my opponent wants to push us towards more nonsense. I want to return to common sense. And so I'm a family man. I'm a fighter. I've spent my entire life defending our country and fighting for families. And so if you elect me, I'll fight for you. I'll fight for our families.
By my agency, how do you help me?
And so for that question, I say this. Look, I spent a decade in the FBI. I am a former federal employee. So I know that 99% of federal employees are great, wonderful people who love our country.
That's not true.
No, but I'd say 99%. but you notice I'm saying there's 1% that aren't. And every federal person I talk to, they can agree with that. And when you have someone who doesn't do their job, who has to carry the weight? It's all the good employees, right? And so I want to help the good employees. I think good employees have been pushed out of the federal government. And so if those good employees want to come back in, I want to help them find a way. But more importantly, I want to find other opportunities for them. I think if we put more money back in the pockets of you, I think if we deregulate and we allow businesses to thrive, new jobs will be created, new opportunities, and they'll be able to take all that experience they got in the federal government, and they'll use that to launch a new career where they make even more money, they do something even more impactful than they were doing before. And so my big thing, the last thing I'll say, is it's wasteful spending is my focus. And right now the federal government is broken. It's not the people so much as it's the process. And so there's this thing called use or lose. Every federal agency, including the military, when they get to the end of a fiscal year, whatever money they haven't spent, there's a rush to get that out the door so that they can get next year's allotment of money. That is broken. Federal agencies should be rewarded for spending less than what Congress gave them to accomplish the mission. They need to accomplish the mission, But if they can accomplish the mission with less money, they should be rewarded for that, and that money should go back to you, should go back to your pocket. And then they shouldn't be penalized for that. And so that's a big thing I'm focusing on. But if you want to fix all the wasteful spending, you have to fix the way we operate. And so that's a key place to start. But does that answer your question, ma'am?
Not really.
Okay.
We can talk later. But
Yes, ma'am.
I actually, if I tweet out your message, give me a very short sentence like "Make America Great Again," something like that. That kind of message.
The slogan, more of a slogan?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would just say, he's a family man that wants to return our district to common
That's on
sense.
sale.
Yeah.
I want to talk about what you just talked about because that triggered something in me. On the federal level, what Trump has done is cut a lot of the fraud and the bloat, but he's promising the manufacturing. He's already got the tariffs coming in, and he's going to have new jobs for people. Does Virginia have something like that? Is there something coming into Virginia? Do you know of contracts that are coming in? When you cut Fairfax spending or Virginia spending because of all what they're spending it on DEI and CR, all that stuff, do you have a plan for where that money can go? Is there something coming in that you can tell these people that we're going to create new jobs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to happen organically. And so I'll say this. So with the federal contract system, that's another thing that's broken. Instead of people winning on merit, they've been winning for other reasons. And so when you fix some of that system, you are going to create massive jobs and massive opportunities. And guess what? The national security threats aren't going away anywhere soon, right? So there's always going to be contractors and good contracting opportunities. And then there's also, with the tax cuts that came in and the deregulation that came in from the One Big Beautiful Bill, we're going to see huge economic benefits from that. So I'll say this, for instance, and so that's another thing we have to fight against is because the left, all the media is on their side. So they just repeat and parrot their talking points over and over, and they don't really explain what's in that bill. But one of the things that, it's the largest tax cut in American history. The average family in Virginia is going to have $14,800 more in their pocket than they did had they not passed that law. The child tax credit has been increased. If they hadn't passed that law, it would have gone down to $1,000. Now it's up to $3,200. So, or $2,200. There's the standard deduction for taxes, and I'm not trying to burn out, but these are the things that really matter. When you go and do your taxes, 91% of people do the standard deduction, and that was going to get cut in more than half. And instead, it's been increased. And so all that money is going to come back into consumers' pockets, and what are they going to do? They're going to come to places like this restaurant, and they're going to take their family out to dinner when they maybe couldn't have otherwise because they had $14,800 less. And all that money is going to get back into the economy, and it's going to stimulate and create opportunities. The other thing is deregulations. I don't know if is anyone a small business owner in here? But if you've ever tried to start a small business, it's a bit like trying to do your taxes for the first time. If you remember that, if you've done that. But it's a super hard, very complicated process. And so the more we can deregulate and get rid of those burdensome regulations, not only will we save businesses money, but we'll actually encourage entrepreneurs. And a lot of these federal employees can do that. There's going to be opportunities to start businesses and grow. But data centers, artificial intelligence is going to open up opportunities that are endless, and all those applications the federal government can utilize. And so this is why we have a special group of people in this area. There's a lot of prior military, there's a lot of prior government service. They have other expertise that they can bring to those companies and kind of help them develop tools that actually matter.
So in reference to what she's alluding to, I was just remembering, Youngkin said that he was going to open up jobs here for the federal government, the displaced group. Maybe that's something to say, that you can go to the job, I don't know what the job, I'm not a federal government, the job board, this job board, and you can see all the jobs that the Republicans, that Governor Youngkin has opened up. Would that be sufficient for, because you wanted Make America Great Again.
Yeah, Youngkin said that 250,000 jobs, and I actually did some exploring the other enrichment, and the jobs are potential jobs, not real jobs.
Not real jobs?
Yeah, and the federal government, I know them, my staff, I don't know how can I. Where to replace them because they have no skill.
Great dinner.
But that's kind of the problem. And I'll say this though, if there's people that if they lack skill to get placed somewhere else, then there can be other programs where they can learn new skills.
I'm trying to solve the problem and train them.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you for that question. I appreciate it. I know.
Can I just add to it?
Yes, ma'am.
I just think one thing our community can have is that we need to think about the future for our children. If we keep expanding the government, and we are destroying the future. And so destroy the future of those government, the federal government employee who are laid off. So that's just one argument we can use.
Yeah, no, that's
So,
fine.
yeah, so the other thing I want to say that, I like what you said and so far, but you started with this statement, and we want change. And it sounds like Obama.
Yeah.
We don't want change. No, we don't want. I think this is important. We want to restore America.
Yeah.
We want to go back, actually. We want to restore meritocracy. We want to restore accountability. So I think I will stay away from the word change because it sounds like Obama who had enough of their radical changes.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion.
No, that's great feedback. And the reason I think of it as change is because this guy who's I'm running against
I know, but
is
the
appointed,
word,
but your
they
point makes perfect
absolutely
sense. Yeah.
corrupt that word.
Yeah.
And that word means radical change to America. We had enough of it.
Yeah.
We want to restore. You can find another word, I think, but I just want to.
Yeah.
bring
No,
it
I appreciate
back.
that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Make great again is the thing.
Yeah. Make,
Make whatever great
yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah. So make Virginia great again.
Yeah.
Or make this,
So there's
You know,
There's a website.
2010, the statistics lost by only 700 votes. So, well, it's not impossible, but the Republicans make that impossible.
How about a slogan like what you were just saying?
Restoration.
restore
Yeah.
America.
Restore common sense.
Restore common sense, that's, restore
That's a quick
common
one.
value, or something like
Yeah.
that. Restore, that is the really, that's a good word.
That's a
That's a great.
powerful word.
Yeah. No. Well, I thank you for that. We'll do.
And you can even say that, you can say change. How many change we have in the past, whatever years, what we call this radicalization of America. And yeah.
Restoration, something like that. So that will stick, otherwise other things won't stick.
All right, I'm going to use that, and then you're going to be able to say, I told him. So I hope that gets your vote. No,
Do you guys
that's
have
good
his,
stuff.
do you guys have his website? If you go to his website, there's like 3 main points.
I did.
Okay, yeah, so it's fix the economy, protect our families, and eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. So those are the 3,
I think that
but,
is,
yeah.
That's
And
great.
the slogan, which is shorter.
Yeah,
Just
it's
a-
Yeah.
like the label put on
No, this
someone.
is great. I love that. And actually, I feel like that is in some of our stuff because I've had that in
It's
speeches.
like a nickname.
Yeah, and no, I love it. Yeah, you're honestly, I do.
Okay. We are here to help you, not to please you.
No. No, but it's good. Yeah. Yes, sir. Did you?
Yeah, here's my observation. We have 3 C. 1 C, confrontation. It's politics, military, between the United States and China or even Asian country. And the 2nd C, competition, high-tech, technology transfer, dual use. That's we cannot touch. That's government level. And the 3rd one, cooperation level. Culture, econ, trade, and we can see bonded warehouse, and instead of internet, that's already obsolete. Now it's called logic supply chain. And if we can get overseas, foreign country, set up bonded warehouse, say nearby the Dulles Airport or Fairfax somewhere, I think that this is the area really can help people get a job, increase international trade. I think among the county level or governor, state level, we should have more trade delegation from Vietnam, Malaysia, Taiwan, China come to Virginia, particularly Northern Virginia. We have the port advantage, Baltimore, and the Newsport. And this is something.
I think this is going to happen. I think you're spot on, but I think this is going to happen because of the tariff policy. And remember, like a lot of this tariff policy some of it's all about reciprocal. Some of it is negotiating 101. You always come in with a heavier position, and then you work out the difference. And he's obviously the negotiator in chief,
Yeah.
as much as he's the commander in chief. So he's good. He's proven he's pretty good at that kind of stuff.
At the county level, I think this is an issue to follow.
Yeah. But if we create that reciprocity, what's going to happen? Companies that are manufacturing in Vietnam because it's way cheaper will look at it and they'll say, hey, you know what? For U.S. consumers, maybe it makes sense to have two factories. Maybe we'll have a U.S.-based factory, but then we'll also have one based in Vietnam or wherever. And so if they do that, then people have to come work in that factory. Americans still get goods that are at a lower price, but it just encourages that.
And then the products made in USA
Yeah.
always get duty free.
Yeah,
Now
if it's
to
made
go
in the
to
US, then it's no
Taiwan,
tariff, yeah.
Vietnam, South Korea.
Yeah.
I think
The auto
we have to
manufacturers is the big
change
one.
our
Because right now the auto manufacturers make us purchase vehicles. They won't do them in the US, and it's because they put us at such a disadvantage. And so it just makes sense that if you want to make a foreign vehicle, why not put a plant here? You can still have one in Germany or Japan or wherever.
Okay, we
But,
want
yeah.
more than just made in America. We don't want all those visas and replacing the American employee. We want to make sure that if you're going to do that, you have American, it's the American worker, this is America. We want our people to be working. We don't want to import people from another country to be working. I don't want that. The H-1B visa that, maybe Amazon's using, I'm not really up on that, but I do know that it's displaced a lot of technical people who had good jobs because bringing people in from India, I don't want any of that here. I really want people out struggling, and if there's a way you can get boot camps or something, or retraining or something, put the people that are here already. I mean,
Well, and I'd say I think we can do both. Like I think we can attract the most brilliant, smart people who want to come to the U.S. with
They're
a smart visa program. And I'm saying, and every single person in the U.S. can find a good job if we stimulate the economy in the right way. And then the other thing, like right now, what the Democrats are doing is they're pushing welfare over work. So they're pushing able-bodied men who are sitting on the couch.
we don't want that.
I know, so that's what I'm saying we don't want. And so some of that is it's designing welfare policy that basically says, hey, if you're an able-bodied man and you don't have any kids, then you need to at least look for work, train, or volunteer at 20 hours a week until you get a job, and then that'll push them into labor force. Because right now our labor participation rate in the U.S. is record low. So that means there's a lot of able-bodied people that are choosing not to work. It's not even just people that can't find a job.
85% in the southern part of Virginia. I just came back from there. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But what I think is that the campaign is short. 2 months campaign got to be, first you got to have a very thick slogan, and I love her suggestion. And second, it's got to be negative.
Gotta be what?
Negative campaign. No. What I say is that you've got to criticize something. I remember one history lesson I learned from, like, remember George Wallace when he ran? He has two words. One word, busing. Whatever you say, that's stick. It won him 9 states. So something, I think we need to find something that will stick with you. That must be a good sign for yourself.
Yeah.
That's really
Well, I'd say watch the moderated debates when I go toe-to-toe with them, and maybe you'll be pleased. So there's 3 of them. There's one on the 28th, July 28th. It's live, limited participation, but it'll be videotaped, so you can watch it. There'll be another televised interview on Fox, or on Channel 10. When is that? Do you know, Greg, when that televised?
Next Sunday.
Yeah, no, that's an interview. Yeah, there's an interview next Sunday, but I think there's that televised debate is sometime in mid-August.
The
But the
28th.
problem there is that nothing like this debate can compare with social media.
Yeah, but remember though, the race we're in right now is this special election, and so we literally, to win the special election, the race we're in for me, all we have to do is turn out voters that are Republican who are inclined to vote for me, and we'll win.
Can you sit down with me and do a short interview with you, and then I will make you speak 10 languages?
Yes. Yeah, you can make me speak 10.
Seriously, I can make
Yeah.
you speak 10 languages
Yeah.
with AI, but you have to agree, say whatever you say, you have to agree with whatever I make you say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said, yeah. Because look, at the end of the day, we have to restore common sense, and we have to restore values.
34% of people in your
What
district
about
are born.
restoring common sense?
Yeah, 34% of voters in your district are foreign born.
Mhm.
You got to, if you want to run a big race and these people, many of them don't vote in all their elections. So if you get the language people out, you win.
Yep. No, and so that's what I was saying like at the beginning. I cannot win this race without your
But you
help.
have to speak their language.
Yep. And I need a friend. So if I walk in, and so my friend Ando is taking me to the Eden Center to meet with people next week. And so the thing is, I'm not going to wander in there by myself. My friend is going to come there. She's going to introduce me to people in the community, and we have our campaign literature has been translated with her help into Vietnamese. And so I'm going to spend several hours walking around, meeting people, and just trying to get people face to face. But I'll tell you, it's so hard because we have this compressed timeline. And so that's one thing I've been asking, and obviously this right here that's happening right now is because my friend Sam setting up an event. But as we need to find opportunities where there's big groups of voters that are truly persuadable. So the other thing is there are some voters that you can't persuade them in a couple meetings like this. It is just the truth. And so if we spend our time on that, that's not effective. But if we can find groups of people that are at least
You
open.
need to find a lot of social influencers.
Yes.
That's more important.
Yeah, and so if you know, yeah, no, that's where we need help. And so I have a friend Astrid who, in the Hispanic community who's setting me up with their radio stations that are in all Spanish. And so I'll come on. There's again Anne's helping me with the Vietnamese community and others. So yes, I welcome that. If you have any help, I would welcome that.
And Stuart, and want to share with you that one of the reasons I ran is that I'm very much against the Democrats who think they own the Asians or the minorities, right? Because we actually, as the Asian community, the Latino community, are conservatives and much more aligned with the Republicans. And that's what we have to do to represent. And that's why we need a champion at the moment, and hopefully it's you. And being that I ran in the last month, I learned that Asian, okay, it's easy to label it, but it's much more complicated than that. So even within each community have different factions or interests. So as this opportunity, I want that all of us unite once and for all. Because there's one thing we all can agree on, that we're conservative, that we care about our families, we care about our businesses, we care about our pocketbook, right? And then we also don't want to forget where we came from, that all of us had some sort of hardship, and that's why we're in America. Now we all together have to fight. So the questions I would want to present, and so that Stuart can take with him, is even to go even further. What in your community that you need to be vocalized and represented. I'm talking about within the Chinese community, what you're concerned, what in the Korean community, the Vietnamese, the Indian, what have you. So I know Asia is big, right? So I mean, it's the homework you have to do to listen, right? And so that, I mean, we may not have the opportunity to answer all the questions, but let's throw out some of the things within Fairfax that a Chinese person or a Korean person or a Vietnamese person and everyone else, what is the concern? Because I also want to learn too.
I want to add a little bit on that. I think that, of course, we have Asian community, we have Black community, we have Brown community. But we're all Americans. I think it's very, very important that what's good for America is good for Asians. And just don't make it a separate issue. Because the reason we come to America is we believe in America. If we restore America, it benefits everybody. It benefits people with talent, people with merit, and I just don't want to have this kind of Asian, where please Asian. Asians is tied with America, and make that a very strong point. I think it's good for everybody.
Everybody needs to hear.
Yeah, it is. We have
Conservative values is what we're
Yes.
after. Get rid of the DEI, get rid of the sanctuary cities, get rid of the bloated fraud spendings. We're all for that. We want life to be restored.
Yeah.
To make sense.
That as Asian American, I always look at discriminate.
Yeah,
These
we're
Americans
Our Americans, I'm Dutch American, Filipino American, but we're
We're
American.
Americans.
sense.
Yeah.
Make that very strong. I think because the Democrats, you can say the other side, yeah,
That's
they
what
want
they
to
want
tribalize
to
us.
do. They want to appease
Asians
everybody.
and the brown and whatever. No, we are all Americans.
Yes.
So in that case, you need one message. Yeah, I just think the problem here is the Democrats, you know, I work with Democrats. They have like 10 scripts for different groups. We need one script. One script for everybody. Make me feel like valuable.
We're together, we're united, we're strong.
So, no hiding.
Yes.
No hiding.
I love that. Any other issues that are like, what's the stuff that keeps you up at night that you're
The CCP will be, if that comes up, that will be an issue.
Yeah.
And it's a threat to all of us, and to our way of life, and so it's better if you talk to the Chinese community and make that clear. It's CCP, so will come up and.
Yes. Yeah, and I spoke to a group, the Falun Gong group, and I spoke to others. But I know obviously that was a big question they had, and I was actually at a meeting with the other Democrat candidates, and the Democrat candidates couldn't answer that simple question. Like they were saying, we don't feel safe, like we feel like we're intimidated by the Chinese government, the CCP. What are you going to do about it? And literally they had no answer. They're like, well, there's two sides to every story. And so I got up and I said, no, unacceptable. I don't care who you are. If there's any person in our district that feels like there's a foreign power that's making them feel unsafe, that's unacceptable. That stops now. It's done. Chinese buying up farmland, buying up radio stations for propaganda. So the other things,
Chinese
CCP, yeah. But I mean, they're buying up. They run propaganda, and the CCP runs the long game. You know that. Yeah. But the CCP does it at a level that's no one is even close to the sheer numbers, the amount of resources they put in it, and it's literally intimidating people in our community, and it's unacceptable. And so that I will fight against that 100%. Unequivocally. And the example I gave them is this too. Like this shows the difference. Like weakness invites aggression. First Trump administration, did a Chinese spy balloon ever fly across the U.S.? No, right? All right. During Biden's administration, yes, it happened, and it lasted a really long time. Does anyone for a second think that a Chinese spy balloon is going to float across the U.S. now that President Trump's in office? Like, do you think for a second that's going to be allowed to happen? And so why is that? It's because weakness invites aggression. Peace through strength. And so that is a different position. That is the Republican position, is to be strong, and our adversaries respond to that accordingly. The whole Ukraine war, the reason that happened is because the president who was in office at the time, Biden, was weak. And the Russians saw that, and so he sleepwalked the world into a war. And so there's huge ramifications, and that comes down to the congressional level as well. And so we have to be strong in those kind of positions.
Under the umbrella of foreign influence, and not for campaign strategy at all, but when you represent, we're representing in Virginia, we've got a problem with Jamaat al-Fukra in the area, and terrorist training camp over south of Blacksburg. And at one time, Charlottesville used to have a street named Sheikh Delaney. He's a Pakistani sheikh who knew a lot of terrorists, okay? That took the locals to actually go to the town and get them to change that street. There's a lot of history of Muslim, Islam. If you can ever get the Muslim Brotherhood and terrorists, that's what keeps me up at night, because that's quiet, because people can't say anything because they don't want to be a lot Islamophobic. I'm getting nervous talking about it.
No, that's okay.
I researched this way back in 2008, and they used to call down on King Street Wahhabi Corridor. I mean, the Beltway shooters. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, no. So I've worked counterterrorism, and I'll say that besides being in the FBI for a decade, I also taught a college course on Islamic terrorism at Catholic University for 3 years. So I've studied the threat, and I take it very, very seriously. And so it's not, and I know there's differences because there's a lot of good Muslims who share our same values, but I know there's sects that are dangerous, and so it's drawing that line. And again, Iran is the largest state sponsor of terrorism. Yeah, so we have to take this.
When moderates are not speaking up.
Yeah. No, but you're great. I love it. No, that's good.
How about making
Yeah, but what are issues?
County affordable?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
People, a lot of people have are moving out because The taxes all subject tax.
Yeah.
So let's make the difference important.
Yes. No, I love it.
Subject tax.
Yeah.
Property
It
tax
goes
is
back to
horrible.
Yeah.
So that's why we need to make Fairfax County affordable. I mean, you guys want a little slogan that most people.
This is the federal government.
Yes.
I know, it's the law, the taxes
No,
are
county.
local.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's local. It's the board of supervisors.
Yes.
It's Waukesha.
Well, you can
Yeah, but it's not,
use it.
well, yeah, you can use it against.
Talking about burning
That's what I
issue.
was thinking. I mean, they wanted a little
The
slogan.
burning issue is education. If you think of 65% of Virginia's high school graduates could either fail math or fail English. And I was in meeting in Richmond and working with the issues, and after the abolishment of the education department, the federal Pell Grant is kind of messed up, and we are losing a lot of money.
Yeah, it was way messed up even before that.
Yes.
Remember, like the whole student aid, financial aid rollout from the Biden administration, like people missed getting into college because they were so horribly run, the Department of Ed. So it's gonna get better after that for sure.
I serve on the government's college board.
Yeah.
And here, what will happen is that you have a few things to straighten up all the education issues, concrete proposal, and you department.
Yeah.
Because it relates to everybody.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think things are gonna get a lot better now that because that was a big agency that just kind of, if you look at like test scores, they started going down when we created, so President Carter, Jimmy Carter created the Department of Ed, and U.S. test scores have been going down since then. They were actually like on the rise before the creation. So it's clearly something that failed and didn't work, and so we need to find another alternative. But they, oh yes, sir. Anyone on this side?
I was just saying,
Any
a lot of
issues?
discussion
Yeah,
going
sorry.
on here.
And that's the big thing. It's like, but this is good.
Steve, if I
Yeah,
may
issues.
offer one,
Yes.
I think for every first-generation American family, they come here with hopes and dreams anchored to their children. And not only private schools, but public schools, accessible schools. Because they're really, they escaped whatever they came from with the hope of seeding their children here for a better, more prosperous future. And that can be Africans, that can be Eastern Europeans, it can be Asian, whatever. And so I think that, I know you've been emphasizing that, focusing on that, that's one of your platform issues, but definitely make that connection to those coming from elsewhere with that dream in hand. I think it's really
Yes. No, I love that.
Yeah, I'm talking about, I cannot get my mind off that restoration because, being here for almost 25 years, I see so many changes. The one reason I told my friend I had to lay back a little after, the election because I was exhausted, because there are so many limited and volunteer willing to come out because they are burdened by their heavy workload. My wife, actually today, Sunday afternoon, she's working. She's working. She's from one of these big corporations. Right now, she told me like half of the building were empty because people got laid off. And she has to do actual work, like 3 or 4 times. Because the involvement of AI, they are required to use AI to, it's like they see they are, they are afraid, they are concerned. The more they work very hard,
Yes.
but they still think they are unique.
But they shouldn't be scared, and I'll say why, because you think of so we used to be an agriculture industry. Most people in the US used to work on a farm. And so when the Industrial Revolution came around, when they started doing massive technology improvements, people worried that they're like, man, if we need less farms, what are people gonna do? But then but that's when we grow, we take this next step, and all these new industries that we never even imagined would exist, start to exist. The same goes for a typewriter. When they invented the typewriter, there was this mass worry of all the secretaries that write notes or, what are they going to do yet? And basically what it does is it just streamlines the work, and we're able to get more things done. And then when we have time, then we spend that time doing different things at a higher level. And so I think it'll lift a lot of people. We'll move into even more, meaningful jobs. But there's always that period of time where we need to help. There's a little period of time of transition, but.
Yeah, you need to convince people.
Yeah.
It will turn worse before it turn better. I think that this is a lot of people got impact on this. People. I think the morale of this area is particularly low, probably historically low. So you need to have something, humanize people.
Yeah. What's driving that? So what's driving that low morale?
It's like the emotion, the people impact, the negativity.
Economic opportunity? Is that the biggest thing? Okay.
No, that's part of it. I don't have answer for it.
Most
I
of
don't.
our white-collar jobs.
White collar job? The loss of white collar
Yeah.
jobs?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah.
Because of those.
because
No,
particularly.
No, AI.
Particularly in this minority group, we are heavily into IT business. Like we got impact a lot. We also a lot of people, my friends in government.
Yeah.
Like that double whammy.
Yeah, well, Mike Rowe recently said that AI is coming for the individuals, the engineers, right? The software engineers, the folks that write code, versus the welders, right? So that's what I think the issue is, right?
Yeah. And this is what I mean, is what I'm saying, it's like, it's hard to say, well, what's the next position, but there's another opportunity that's gonna come. And I'll say that some of that machine learning, it still takes a human to kind of prove it, so to speak, and you have to have a base knowledge. And so for instance, like, if you can have AI write an op-ed for you, you still have to have like an author that can look at that and say, like, is that accurate? And for them to do that, they still have to have knowledge and stuff. And so I feel like we should be less worried about that. Not to take it seriously, but I'm saying, and then we can find, because who are the people losing their jobs over AI? And then let's look at what skills they have, and let's find another area where they can gravitate into. And so there probably is other businesses where those same skills translate well.
I think, sorry.
Yeah,
I think there's no perfect answer.
Yeah.
But at least you need to get the people know.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like you feel bored.
Yeah.
You are going to find for solution.
Yeah.
Find solution for these people. There's a broad impact people.
Yeah, my husband is a coder, and
Yeah.
they talk about this a lot because he's close to retirement age. But the younger employee, like especially not too young, you can adapt. The 50s, 40s, they have mortgage. They're really worried because the first one to go probably coders, paralegal, and the people that process medical claims. All that can be automated fast.
Yeah.
But you just have to. Yeah, I think.
And can I just say this about my opponent? Have you ever heard him complain about this, about the loss of jobs for these people or any of this? It's just the federal side, right? And so what does that mean? It's a political, he's using them as a political tool to try to further himself. And so that I care about everyone, and this happens routinely, like small businesses have to reorganize. And so these are the kind of problems we have to solve.
Here's what I think, and now I met a lot of people who are afraid of losing their jobs.
Yeah.
And I was thinking they look like Levi's, the British Levi's movement. They really do, the way they just want to destroy it. And that's a very negative issue and a very engaging issue. And how about making your positive issue and make the other side to take responsibility for that? And because this is short campaign, I'm not talking about long-term and 2 years, 3 years legislation. I'm just saying the negative sentiment always helps the challenge. And in this area, the challenges, and see how we take advantage of that. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not suggesting anything concrete.
No, I appreciate that. And so my big focus is kind of what my professional experience is grounded in, and that's fixing the economy through stopping all the wasteful spending. And so, for starters, if the government's spending billions and billions of dollars on a transgender comic book in Peru, and instead they could be spending that on you, that's a problem, right? If the government is taking able-bodied men and encouraging them not to work, join the workforce, and instead telling them to stay on the couch and play video games, that's a problem. That hurts our thing. So those are the issues I'm focused on for this race, but these are good issues to talk to and figure out. But it's like, if we stimulate the economy and we create opportunities, that solves a lot of the problems. And so what my opponent's proposing to do will do the opposite. He's going to raise your taxes, he's going to continue to boost entitlement programs, and he's going to continue to encourage people to basically become dependent on the government so that he can have their vote. And so I want to take on these hard issues and find solutions to actually create better lives for people who have dependency. And so that's our big difference.
Well, and then the opportunity that I ran on, I shared is as a military person, we went through the TAPS program, the Transition Assistance Program, where a service member is leaving the military, but they get linked up with private sector. So my proposal was to have the federal system offered to the workers, the civilian workforce, so to match up the private sector as we shrink public sector government and try to line up industry, that we can have a win-win. So that could be a solution.
Yeah, no, yeah, so we definitely need to help, and that's like kind of one of the things too, I agree, is helping. If there's good employees that want to get back into the government, there are positions in other agencies that are vacant that can be filled by those good employees, and then if there's not, it's just finding other opportunities for them to grow. But yeah, definitely agree. Anyone else, any big issues that are important to you that haven't, yes, sir?
This may not be the right place for this, but when you do get elected,
I like that attitude, though. That's the attitude we need.
What I'd like to do is recommend, let me back up. We're surrounded by Mark Warner, Tim Kaine, and God rest his soul, Jerry Conlon. They hear from me a lot, and every time I hear back from them, it's a bunch of bull crap. After you get elected, I just ask that you do not insult your supporters' intelligence like those people do, and speak the truth, because it's very frustrating having no voice in the state of Virginia. It's so frustrating, and I'm looking forward to this.
I appreciate that, sir. And that's true. That's another good point for a lot of independents. It's like people believe in balance. And so right now, you basically have one party control over the entire region where we live in and our state. And so that's another good talking point to people that, hey, if you're on the fence between two candidates, why don't you pick someone so that it can be more, fair in that sense. But yeah, I promise you, because that's the difference. He's not coming to events like this. He thinks he's entitled to people's vote. I'm trying to earn it. And I know full well that if I'm going to win this race, but then the next race, the swing voter, you cannot win the next race without bringing those people in. So if you think I'm responsive now, you're going to be like blown away with what it's like after this, because I'll have to be even more responsive. I have to get even more groups on board. And so I promise you that. And you can ask anyone who emails me. I respond to everyone, because I always tell, and actually people on the team are like, you need to stop doing that. But I'm like, that's my job. And I'm competing for this job for these folks. If they're taking the time to write me an email with a question, I can sit down late, it's midnight by the time I get to it. But I can take a moment, sit down, and answer their question, because I owe them at least that. And so, anyway, that's the kind of person I am. You won't be let down. Thanks, sir. Yes, sir.
The property tax. In fact, that will grow up much faster than inflation. This is a good talking point for me.
Yeah, and we were kind of talking about that. So even though I'm federal government and I can't do the property tax, what I can say is the guy I'm running against is the reason you got that high property tax. And what do you think is going to happen when he goes to the federal government? He's going to do that same thing. So that property tax, the mills tax, all this stuff that's out of control at the local level, he's going to double down. And so not only are you going to have bad taxes at the local level, you're going to also have them at the federal level. And so that's why you need me. If you don't like any of those taxes, then you should not be voting for my opponent, because he's the one that put those in place. You should be voting for me.
I'd also point out why they want to higher taxes.
Yeah.
It's because it's socialist program. That's how they expand. They were never satisfied. They always have more money.
Never.
So yeah, but explain the reason why they always have higher, more higher.
Yeah, it's because
they will never stop. They want more and more and more, because they expand their program nonstop.
Yeah, and they create dependency. It's two things. Like, one, they're trying to create dependency to basically buy votes. But the other thing that happens is they grow the government. And when people that aren't productive, or units that aren't productive, the federal government solution is always the same. Spend more money. And they spend more money, and then it costs more money. And the reason they spend more money is because they can print money.
Use
There
the
is
word
no limit.
socialism, and if you can, use the word communism. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to
Yes,
say.
ma'am. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I think when you said the thing that keeps, pretty much everyone in this room have all heard it in different little manners, but the government's gotten too big, period. They're in the schools, the DEI, the communism thing, the socialism thing, the equity, this affordable housing, all this stuff that they're doing and imposing on us little people. It's all basically power and control and money and getting, you know, the kickbacks from the developers or whoever, the lobbyists. It's just government has got completely out of control and needs just to butt out of everything. And go back, like we said, go back to, you know, capitalism. Why is capitalism being like, you know, pounded on by that idiot that's running for mayor in New York, like, you know, self-proclaimed, right? And, you know, so there are some people who are like, yeah, free stuff, I'll take it. But most people are not. And it's like the government has just gotten too big and bloated. And as soon as everyone kind of understands that bigger picture, which everyone in this room does, you do, but that's kind of has to be like drilled home. And, you know, we have charity for a reason. Go to charity. Like if you want to help people do this and that, then go down to the soup kitchen.
Yeah.
Or go, it's like people are like, oh, we need to give houses for people that don't have it. It's like, oh, I don't see you up on Saturday morning framing houses with Habitats for Humanity. Have at it.
Yeah.
But stop making everybody else pay for it.
No, I agree.
Right.
You know, like 2 points real quick. When the government gives donations on your behalf, you lose something. Because I don't know anyone who's donated to a cause that you really believe in, you'll know right away. Like that, the euphoria that you feel when you give to something you truly believe in is wonderful. It's hard to match anywhere else. And so when the government does that for you, you lose that as well. But the other thing the government's doing is they're taking our money and they're advancing political pet projects on the left. And that's the thing I was saying before, like the $32,000 transgender comic book Improve is just this perfect example because the question is, how does that benefit the U.S.? I mean, I'm just trying to understand. I get it. You spent it's $32,000 for a transgender comic book. Who reads comic books? Kids, right? So you're putting that, but in a country like Peru, do you think that's helping Peru? It's just like, what is going on? And so this just has to stop. It has to stop. And so that the government, and that's what happened with the USAID. It used to be a great program. We need to return that back where we're paying for health care to people that can't have health care. We're paying for medicine. And we're doing those kind of things in smart ways. That makes sense. But they were using the USAID fund as a slush fund for their political projects. The only reason we know about that is because of the work that President Trump did through the Doge effort. That's the only reason we even know what was on those line items. We all knew they were wasting our taxpayer money, but only when we saw the line items. $57 million to house illegal immigrants in luxury hotels in New York. $57 million of our dollars. And so why would they do that? Why would they do it? Oh, because they want them to come there and they want to create new voters that can vote for them. And so it's obvious, right? And so, yeah. And so that's what we have to stop. And so we have to stop. That's why the reining in the wasteful spending is a passion of mine. There is a congressional solution, which is the REINS Act, regulations from the Executive and Needed Scrutiny Act, which basically just says before they can do that, they have to get Congress to approve it. And so Congress will never approve anything unless the trifecta does.
Something about your opponent and what's the most negative?
I got you right now.
Can you say
So he does not want to restore common sense, first of all. No, but he voted to give himself a 45% pay raise. When crime was on the rise in Fairfax County, we were short 200 police officers. And instead of hiring new police officers, he voted to give himself a 45% raise. That's the guy I'm running against. I've served our country. He wants to serve himself.
And this is the nickname of him.
I mean, I hesitate, so that's not my style. But I'll say this: I love what. Trust me, you and I love.
He'll walk all over you.
Hey, but I'll say that, yeah, he'll walk all over you, But but I'm saying these other big groups, the bombs, remember what I was talking about? When they come in, they can do whatever they want. They can, and guess what? They will go on the offensive against him, and I don't have to do that. I can focus on the issues people care about and give them a positive vision of, hey, this is how we restore common sense. This is how we restore America.
This is
right?
what this area, the campaign in this area, I always think, I actually talk to the Bush and not talk to the Trump people. But this area, actually, if you do a campaign in people's native languages, and I would strongly suggest you that say there's a huge, large Ethiopian group, they don't vote. Large Chinese group, whatever group, if you talk in their language among them, the other side takes forever to find out. And you have a short time, if you do that, that can be very helpful.
Yes, no, that's great. And this is what, if there's publications, or there's certain podcasts, or there's certain radio shows that you think have the most
simply
in person.
Simply X.
Oh, on X?
Yes,
so tweet it out,
and, talk to them in their language.
Okay.
And whatever they can't even fight back, it takes them forever to fight back. So this people really use that that's that. And if you, and also, speaking from like a Chinese American point of view, and the candidates really pay attention to us. If you go on, well, I suggested, one, say, X space, whatever, just talk to the group. That can be also helpful. We just to talk to specifically to that group. And the problem of many campaigns, I always complain, is they forget, they forget. This, first, we don't like hyphen. But on the other hand, we like to take the attention to.
Yeah. Yeah.